Now we will see how supposedly secure HTTPS connection can be compromised with the man-in-the-middle attack that uses transparent proxy. I will demonstrate not only can we read or eavesdrop on the HTTPS connection, we can also modify the client-initiated requests on the fly. As you can see on the slide, following is a simple demonstration of how the tool that we'll be using today, mitmproxy, intercepts the HTTP communication. It intercepts the client-initiated request and redirects it to the server. In doing so, it can read it, it can store all the client requests for playing them in future against the server, or it can modify the requests on the fly. Intercepting an HTTPS communication is a little more complicated than that. To intercept an HTTPS connection, the mitmproxy has to play a dual role. It plays the role of a server when the client initiates an SSL handshake, and it plays the role of a client and initiates an SSL handshake with the secure server. By doing so, now it has the information from the client and the server for every request that is made from the client to the secure server. It decrypts all the requests coming from the client and passes it on in an encrypted fashion to the server, and the response that it receives from the server, it encrypts it and passes it further to the client. So from the client point of view, it never knows that there is a man in the middle. Neither the server ever doubts that it is not talking to a real client, but rather getting intercepted by an attacker. Having seen the schematic working of how this operation happens, now let's look at a practical example. Here I have a server which is hosting a web server which is HTTP based and a secure server which is listening on a customized port. And for the sake of simplicity, I've also made a man-in-the-middle proxy by not using ARP cache or DNS poisoning, which is non-trivial, but by doing a simple IP table based rules. So to see that, what I've done is I've set up these rules by which any traffic that is supposed to be coming for the HTTPS server gets redirected to the proxy, and any traffic that is supposed to be coming for HTTP server goes to the proxy again. That is the man in the middle. Right now it is deactivated. We will activate soon when we are going to demonstrate it. Now let's look at the web server. So this is the default page of the web server, and there is one more page. As you can see, if I click on that link, the URL changes and we go to a different page. This will be useful in the future. And let's look at the HTTP version of this. Okay. So in our case, it is raising a warning, but for a legitimate server with a certificate which has been assigned by trusted authorities, it will not raise such exceptions. So in our case, we will accept it. And this is a secure site. As you can see, it's being hosted. Now let's activate man in the middle. For that, we'll have to remove a rule. Now this activates man in the middle. To start man in the middle, we'll start it in the transparent mode. That means it is not ubiquitous to the client or the server, using this flag. Okay, so now man in the middle proxy is listening to all the requests. Let's see how it does. So when I go to the basic HTTP server, you see nothing is happening here because I think this page was served from the cache. So let's refresh it. As soon as I refresh it, you see this request was intercepted by man in the middle proxy. To see the details, this is how you navigate through the man in the middle proxy menu, is that you press enter on the message where you see these arrows, and then you use tab to move. When you do tab, it moves from request to response to details. There is another way to look at the connections is by coming to the screen, and to come to the screen you have to press Q to get out, like enter to get in, Q to get out, and E will show you the event log of how the connections are happening. Now let's look at how whether can we modify a request on the fly. So to do that, we have to press I, which is an interception filter, we can use a lot of regular expressions to intercept a specific type of filters. mitmproxy is a Python based solution, so a lot of Python regex is usable here. We'll go with the basic one, which is the star. Now it will intercept every client connection that comes. So let's try one more. Orange means it is waiting for our input, the attacker's input, or the man in the middle input. So let's do that. Now I can edit this request, and my options are, if I press E, I can change the cookies, the query, path, URL, whatever I wish. So let's do a simple thing, change the URL, and I wish this page to go to this URL, and then I have to press A for the response to go. And as you see, I have changed the URL here, but here nothing has changed. So from client's point of view, nothing changed, but I changed the query. Being an attacker in the middle, I modified the request, and you can see the result here. Now let's see if we can redo this in an HTTPS website, which is supposedly secure. Okay, so now advanced, add exception, confirm security exception, and then let's do this. So we intercepted a secure communication and we forwarded the response coming from the server. Let's see if we can modify this request. So here also we can toggle and look at the details. This is the certificate sent by the server to the man in the middle. Let's see if this was the same thing that happened on the client side. To do that, as you remember, we saved the certificates both the times. And these are the two certificates. Clearly, the certificate that we received the second time was not the same as that we had received the first time when man in the middle was not invoked. That means these two certificates are different. That means we are not talking to the same server as we would like to believe that we were talking to an original server. Okay, let's try to now modify the request. To do that, we have the interception filter on. Let's send the query again. Press enter, E, URL U, and let's change it R to d2.html. And if I press A, I have been brought to the new page. That means I successfully intercepted an HTTPS communication, and I also modified the request. HTTPS is not secure after all, as much as we thought. And what's more, I can see the response that came from the server, which I passed on then to the client. What are the implications of what we just saw? A little food for thought. What we just saw is an obvious threat that yes, we can be hacked if we are trying to use secure sites using vulnerable networks like public Wi-Fi in a coffee shop, but there are far-reaching privacy issues. We take comfort in the thought that services like Google Search, Gmail, WhatsApp are all end-to-end encrypted, but corporations and governments can set up these transparent proxies which we will not know that we are going through or our communication is passing through, and they can clearly eavesdrop on it and store any form of communication that they want. I would like to close this on that thought. Thank you.